Baton Rouge is now the third diocese in Louisiana releasing the list of accused priests. The diocese joining New Orleans and Houma Thibodaux in making the disclosure. Chris Welty joins us live in studio with more on the connections the priests in Baton Rouge have to Acadiana. Chris.
Hey Jim, the Baton Rouge bishop named 37 priests who have faced credible accusations of sexual abuse. And on that list, connections to Acadiana and the Diocese of Lafayette, first exposed by KATC Investigates earlier this month. In all, the Diocese of Baton Rouge's list includes 4 priests with Acadiana connections: George David Gensler, Jody Blanchard, Pierre Celestine Combier, and Joseph Pelletieri.
My first concern was, and has been, for the persons victimized by this abuse who have often felt betrayed and unsupported by the church. It has been my hope that this will be an important step that will help those men and women whose lives have been so deeply violated.
Baton Rouge Bishop Michael Dukas says the church must be proactive and transparent in supporting victims. He hopes by releasing this list, they'll regain the public's trust, adding real healing can't begin until we acknowledge the truths of the past.
This list reflects the lives of real people and a path of pain and suffering that affects most deeply the persons who are victims of abuse. This list is not the end, but an attempt to open the door on sexual abuse that none of us want to open.
Dukas hopes victims of abuse will feel encouraged to come forward so they, quote, no longer bear the pain alone. He also prays that the church begins to change how things are done as a whole.
My hope is that we can build into an environment of protection, an environment of awareness that is, first of all, keeps it from happening, but when it does happen, that we act decisively and caringly.
KATC Investigates uncovered an additional priest with ties to Baton Rouge and accusations of abuse, Robert Limoges. Court records indicate he was sent off for treatment following abuse claims in Eunice, then sent to Baton Rouge. A spokesperson for the Diocese of Baton Rouge says they don't have records of allegations against him while in their diocese, and that if Lafayette names him, they'll add him to their list too. Live in the studio, Chris Welty, KATC TV3.
In Texas, 14 dioceses have released their lists, naming nearly 300 clergy. The only diocese not to provide names, Fort Worth, which released its list more than a decade ago. We have links to those lists on KATC.com. Meanwhile, the Diocese of Lafayette is objecting to a legal maneuver to get its list made public. Last year, Abbeville attorney Tony Fontana filed a motion to compel the diocese to release its list as part of a current lawsuit. Fontana represents a St. Landry parish man who claims he was molested as a child by Father Michael Guidry. In its response, the church called those requests grandstanding, unnecessary, and irrelevant. The church even filed a motion for a protective order from the request. And now Fontana tells us he's changing the scope of his lawsuit.
I'm changing my whole lawsuit. I'm changing it to go after them for conspiracy over all these years. That they enabled, they created the atmosphere of protection. So that's conspiracy. You're joining into the crime.
In a statement today, the Diocese of Lafayette says they are still researching historical files to release their own list. Once the research is finished, the diocese says it will share those names. Our investigative team has compiled our own list of at least 36 priests with credible accusations. That is more than double the amount first acknowledged by the church 15 years ago. You can read our continued reporting and watch our half-hour special, The List, on KATC.com/thelist.
Here's Rob's 24-hour forecast.